Es por eso se llama la misión de San Francisco. Thus, you get the city of San Francisco, and that there is the mission of itself, right? Where they first colonized.
What?
Hey, how are we doing today? My name is AK. Aquí nos encontramos con Sharon Herrera, SF native, who's going to take us on a virtual tour. We are celebrating the Latino Alternative movement, where Hispanic heritage goes from a month to a lifetime. Sharon, how are you?
Hi everyone, thank you for having me in your channel. I'm really excited to be here and to share the beautiful culture and history that the Mission District in San Francisco has to offer.
Sharon, you're an SF native, like I said. You've been living in San Francisco for many years, so you know this city like the back of your hand. Tell us about the history of the Mission District.
Yeah, so I just want to start by saying that I am myself an immigrant. I arrived to San Francisco to the Mission District in 2007. So on that mid-wave of migration from Central America and also Mexican migration was still happening. So when I arrived to the Mission District, everything was a cultural shock due to the many ethnicities that were living in the mission at the time. And it was truly beautiful to see so many people, especially from Central America, that we come from different countries and that we can co-live together and just share the space with each other. So I think that that's the most beautiful thing about the Mission District.
And I think one of the things that's really telling of this narrative that you're saying is just the amount of artwork that you find, specifically here in the Mission District. And we're gonna start at the southern tip. So we're gonna start with Balmy Alley. Tell us about Balmy Alley.
Yeah, so Balmy Alley was a project that was dedicated. It started in the 1970s. And it was started by a group of local artists here in San Francisco. These artists took the streets as their canvases and they started painting murals to portray the history and the culture of different groups of people around the Mission District and also around like San Francisco in overall. So I just want to share that this project was brought by a group of female artists through the Placa project on the 1970s. And it was mainly to give a space to Central American people who were migrating to the United States and here in San Francisco to the Mission District due to the civil wars that were happening at the time in the 1980s and 90s in Central America, specifically El Salvador and Nicaragua.
And I was gonna say, one of the main murals we wanna highlight is titled, "The Culture Contains the Seed of Resistance."
Yeah, the culture contains the seed of resistance. It was painted by Miranda Bergman. And this is one of the murals that we still conserve in the Mission District. It was painted in 1984. And if you look really closely in the mural, you can see the voices and the sentiment that these people had with the Civil War. It was a very painful war that it was backed up by the United States. So I think that also that juxtaposition between, you know, the things that they suffer and also bringing their culture alive and telling the rest of the community, we are here, we exist, and we just want to share the space with everyone.
So next we're gonna move on to a very important building, also in the Mission District, the Women's Building. Cuéntanos.
The Women's Building has for me, in my opinion, is the most beautiful mural across San Francisco. I love it because it portrays women, feminism at its fullest. So, and even the name itself, the Women's Building, El Edificio de la Mujer, it has become a symbol for the community, specifically women of color, Latinas, for a center that they can look for resources and for any other type of aid that they might want to get. I really love the image of the woman who is sitting on the top of the building with her belly and just like portraying motherhood and also acknowledging that women have various walks of life. And that to me is just simply beautiful.
One of the most popular destinations in the Mission District, which is Dolores Park. Tons of people gather there on the weekends to have a picnic, to play around. You know, that's the hot spot to take the pictures at with the sunset. What is the history of Dolores Park?
Dolores Park has a lot of history that I think it's overlooked many times, that this was the land for the Chuchuy Native Americans prior to the Spaniards coming to this side of the United States and getting settled. For example, in the 1900s, it was the place that held refugees that were impacted by the earthquake. And also Dolores Park, it has a replica of the Mexican Liberty Bell. This happened on the 1970s when there was a big influx of Mexican migration to the United States and to the Mission District. It's also next to the statue of Miguel Hidalgo, and Miguel Hidalgo is known as the father of independence in Mexico. So you can see that this park was really dedicated to that wave of migration. And now it's just so beautiful how a lot of people gather in there. We have also the mission, the Dolores Church, that the mission at the beginning, when the Spaniards came, it was a place that had as a purpose to restore Native Americans to a new culture, right? To bring them like a new religion, pretty much erase what Native Americans had.
To colonize and assimilate Native Americans that were there, indigenous folk. Which I was gonna say, es por eso se llama la misión de San Francisco. Thus you get the city of San Francisco, and that there is the mission of itself, right? Where they first colonized.
Yes, and now we are in the 2020s and we have come a long way. So there was a proposal to change the names of multiple high schools, and it had to stop because there were more important events happening in 2020, such as the pandemic. But I'm pretty sure that will be a conversation that will come back pretty soon.
So Sharon, what is the future of the Mission District?
We are still here. And when I say we, I mean every single Latino ethnicity that you might think of. We have a lot of gentrification happening in the mission. And prior to the pandemic, white people moving into the neighborhoods due to that we have Silicon Valley right here. We have these big corporations. We are competing with these big companies and these big salaries. Yet we still conserve our culture and the people who live in the mission. I currently work with the San Francisco Latino Task Force, and it really shows how it takes the community to save the community. Nobody else is gonna come and save us, not even the city of San Francisco. We have to mobilize ourselves to make sure to provide the best resources to our communities and protect them against anything, even against this pandemic, and everything that they need. We have vaccination sites. So it really shows that we are, as a community, we have come together to protect each other.
So si la gente quiere ir a visitar a San Francisco, vayan to the Mission District, porque ahí es casa para todos. Thank you, Sharon, for being with us today.
Thank you for having me.